If he's not elected, Trump was discussing the auto industry. Why would they not fact check her on this?
Of Harris and Waltz right after. She has 283 million followers on Instagram. And I'm sure that someone brought to your attention that she signed it, childless cat lady. This is a phrase that you are going to hear in your dreams and your nightmares probably.
Donald Trump did something incredible, and I just have to give him credit. Because I cannot believe he was able to turn the worst debate performance in history into the worst post-debate performance in history as well. Yes, Donald Trump doubled down on the most devastating night of his campaign and decided he would make today the worst 24 hours post-debate of his campaign. It was an absolute mess for Donald Trump. All of his surrogates on the Fox propaganda network could do nothing to defend him and really just made the situation even worse because they had to admit, as much as they lie for him, that KLA Harris won that debate last night. And Donald Trump, as you can imagine, is furious about it. And so he took to Truth Social in a post that we're going to check out in just a little bit. But before we do, I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really goes a long way in supporting our channel. And like I said, the hosts at Fox were doing everything that they could to defend Donald Trump. But this day just kept getting worse and worse as their defense fell even flatter. And when a couple of liberal Fox hosts, I know those words don't sound right in the same sentence, but went after Donald Trump. And what became a really heated segment that I want to check out right here. Fox News panel gets heated after liberal contributor rips Trump for talking about white supremacy and cat eating. The Fox propaganda outlet contributor Mary Harf irked her fellow co-host on Outnumbered on Wednesday as she mentioned former President Donald Trump's past links to white supremacy and his pushing the debunk smear that migrants are eating people's household pets. Fox host Kayleigh McEnany asked Harf about the moderators and argued that they were focused only on fact-checking Trump and not Harris. And now we're going to check out that full clip.
If he's not elected, Trump was discussing the auto industry. Why would they not fact check her on this?
Well, look, I will answer that question by saying I was on with my friend Mark Thiessen last night, who's a conservative Republican, and he made these same points about ABC. But then what he said was, if we're complaining about the refs, we're losing. So do Republicans wish there had been more fact checks of Kamala Harris? Sure. I would point out that Donald Trump got more than 10 minutes more than Kamala Harris to speak last night. So he was given a lot more time to speak by the numbers, and he had opportunities to use that time however he wanted. And the challenge was he used that time to take every bait that Kamala Harris put in front of him. He spewed lie after lie after lie after lie. And I'm glad that the moderators did fact check some of them. And I think that the American people last night saw, setting aside what ABC did or didn't do, I think they saw two very different candidates. And a Donald Trump who, when put under pressure from Kamala Harris, you know, not Joe Biden. This isn't June 25th when we were sitting here on this couch the day after talking about that. When he was put on the spot, he lied and lied and lied.
You mentioned lie a lot, but was it truthful for her to bring up a Charlottesville hoax, a bloodbath hoax? Was that a lie?
I'm going to say, I don't think those are hoaxes. I have lived in Charlottesville. I was not there then.
But that is not what he said.
I have watched that over and over again. And it's not just that, Kayleigh. There are so many times he has winked and nodded to white supremacists throughout his career. It's not in a vacuum here. He has told the Proud Boys that he supports things they do. He has dined with their leader. This isn't in a vacuum here. Okay?
He has denounced white supremacy repeatedly.
While he embraces it repeatedly. And again, if we're talking about politics and whether, to Harris's point, it will move the needle, we're sitting here today talking about how close Donald Trump is to white supremacists after a night.
No, I think that's what you're talking about.
That's
what you're talking about.
A lot of the American people are today. And look, if we're talking about
Emily, no,
whether people are eating cats and whether he's, I mean, we are talking today about
here's
him
a fact.
going down.
The liberal commentator on the panel doing an incredible job dunking on Donald Trump, calling out his failed performance last night and the assertion that it was the moderators who were doing a bad job and interrupting Trump, that it's just so ridiculous to me, and to assert that they weren't fact-checking. KLA Harris is strange because KLA Harris didn't say anything that needed to be fact-checked. So why would they interrupt her when Donald Trump was lying about eating cats and dogs? But it wasn't just the liberal contributors on Fox Today who, like I said, were slamming him and calling out his terrible debate performance. It was actually some MAGA and conservative Fox host who called that Donald Trump and ultimately triggered his anger on Truth Social. And I want to check that out right here.
You know, this very quickly, Bob, is the first time he had 6 prior presidential debates to this one. But this one, at least in my liking, and you're the expert here, he decisively lost it.
Neil Cavuto, saying it as plainly as he can, Donald Trump lost. We all watched the debate, and that is the only conclusion that any rational person possibly could have come to. It's just true. We saw it. You do not have to be a Comera supporter to know that Donald Trump lost. And of course, I believe Donald Trump deep down knows he lost as well. And that is why he is so angry that Fox is saying it. And that is why he posted this on Truth Social. Trump took to Truth Social writing. Neil Kudu, Fox's lowest rated anchor, is one of the worst on television. I actually prefer the losers at CNN, and MSDNC Trump is obviously very upset. But what's so funny about that segment is it wasn't just Neil Kudo who talked about Donald Trump's failure during the debate. RFK Jr., Donald Trump's own surrogate, his own supporter, he had nothing to say. Besides what is actually the truth, KLA Harris beat Donald Trump in this race. And so I'm surprised Donald Trump didn't attack RFK Jr., I guess. It's too early in their relationship for him to claim that he has never met him before now that he is going against Donald Trump. But I just want to check out that clip of RFK Jr. right here.
I think that Vice President Harris clearly won the debate in terms of her delivery, her polish.
It keeps getting worse and worse for the Trump campaign. When you've lost the Fox propaganda out, what do you have? Left your crowd on Truth Social, the increasingly smaller and smaller rallies that you are holding. Those boring rallies that KLA Harris talked about, Hannah Lecter windmills, I guess. Now, cats and dogs being eaten will be attached to the list of conspiracies that Donald Trump rambles off during these boring rallies, and that's what they are. They are boring. And someone who I think is doing a great job talking about this is Gavin Nome. He makes a really interesting point about these rallies that I want to check out right here.
Not only unhinged, but he's derivative of himself. I find him incredibly...
Wait, what does that mean, derivative of himself?
He's boring. And this, I may get in trouble, particularly with this audience. 5 or 6 years ago, you'd tune in, maybe for the train wreck, the clown show, but there was some entertainment value. I mean, you've been watching some of his speeches. It's monotone. He's boring across the board. Even in his audiences, you see people paying attention not to the speech, to themselves, walking out early.
Looking at their clock.
I like how Gavin prefaces saying, hey, I never liked these rallies. I never found them entertaining, but MAGA clearly did, and they don't anymore. And I think that is an important point on Trump's continuous cognitive decline, that it is not just that we can observe him as being more crazed than ever, more unhinged, more off the rails, but his own supporters, who we see slowly moving over to Kamala Harris in very substantial numbers. While they may be small, now they are growing every day. Because they're bored. They don't like the shtick anymore. And I think it's what's causing Donald Trump to lash out so much. It's why he goes back to the MAGA hits. And it's why he's pushing these gross xenophobic and racist attacks, that there are immigrants in Ohio who are eating cats and dogs, because he knows that maybe he can get the love back from MAGA, and that's all he cares about. But in doing so, he is screwing over his entire campaign. And I encourage you, well, I don't appreciate these disgusting, xenophobic remarks when they're called down. Of course, by Kamala Harrison, the excellent moderators at ABC last night, if you want to continue to destroy your campaign. Donald, by all means, go ahead. We'll be happy to let you do it. And again, like I said earlier, it's not just Donald Trump. It is not just the surrogates for him, the MAGA Fox host. It's also the people within his campaign, chief among them, J.D. Vance, who humiliated Donald Trump in the worst possible way on Fox right here.
Of Harris and Waltz right after. She has 283 million followers on Instagram. And I'm sure that someone brought to your attention that she signed it, childless cat lady. This is a phrase that you are going to hear in your dreams and your nightmares probably for many years to come. How do you speak to women voters who obviously they care about what she thinks?
Of course. Well, look, we admire Taylor Swift's music, but I don't think most Americans, whether they like her music or fans of hers or not, are going to be influenced by a billionaire celebrity who I think is fundamentally disconnected from the interests and the problems of most Americans. Look, when grocery prices go up by 20%, it hurts most Americans. It doesn't hurt Taylor Swift. When housing prices become unaffordable, it doesn't affect Taylor Swift or any other billionaire. It does affect middle-class Americans all over our country. And so,
is that not the most hypocritical statement you've ever heard in your entire life? Jai Vance trying to attack Taylor Swift. But really, he just ends up saying the truth about Donald Trump, that he is someone separated from reality, someone who does not care about the average American, someone who never will. And it's not because Donald Trump is a billionaire, because I don't think Donald Trump is a billionaire. It's because he's a selfish person. It's because he's a narcissist. It's how he's always been, and it is how he will always be. And it's why he can't be in the White House. And it's why we're going to be talking about this every single day on this show. So as always, if you want to support us, if you haven't already, over 70% of the people watching these videos haven't subscribed yet. So make sure if you haven't to hit that subscribe button and drop a blue heart in the comments if you stuck around to the end. And until next time, I'll see you soon.